Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745. You already knew that, of course, with my continuing look at Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.41. Now, as of recording, just got a couple little quickie things here starting out front. They've released 10.42. I don't think it was a big enough change for me to need to replay it, testing, seeing what needs to be done for TRE's update. On that front, work has been done. It's going slow. Someone suggested, well, why don't I just stick to my cool events and forget about updating or going back to having an 8 brigade division. Well, because it'd be done quicker. I want to play with 8 brigades. Part of the reason I make TRE, and the main reason I update TRE, is I want to play it with the newer version of Black Ice. Well, I want to play with 8 brigades. So we, Exurgent and I have done a little bit of looking. I know Luigi has offered to help. I don't know how much coding he can help with. But we need to go in and to the EULA codes and tell certain nations to build certain types of divisions with 8 brigades. Not all divisions, sort of mechanized, armored type divisions that sort of come later. Make those with 8 brigades. We need to tell them that, and maybe make some infantry divisions with 8 brigades, depending on the nation. And, I don't know if that's going to take a month, a year, 2 years. We'll figure it out someday. Now, if somebody with some EULA code help wants to come in and help us with this, we would love it. It would greatly speed things up. So if somebody wants to try to dig into that, we talked only a little bit to Luigi. Maybe he wants to dig into it, but so we're working on that. Because I just right now don't even want to make or release TRE without getting 8 brigades and having the AI do it too, and so basically no work happened last week, partially because I was busy doing other things, and I will be continuing to be busy. But we got to get that figured out before we go ahead on other parts of it. So, yeah. And if somebody, well, okay. So got to get that worked out. Oh, and man, when I made the last set of episodes, I was really tired and half asleep. I don't know how much it showed on the video. Basically, a few days ago when I'm making this now. The sort of Saturday morning live show. YouTube decided to change the default for live streams to private. So in my sleepiness, I didn't set it to public, and I didn't understand why it wasn't working when I went in and started and restarted on YouTube. Why they would presume the default for live stream would be private, I don't know, because there's also, unlisted or members only. Those maybe I could understand, but private, live streaming default to private. Yeah, so many on YouTube those on YouTube didn't get to see those, the live stream. Those on Twitch did. But I did put it private. So that's now gone to, and the last hour of it, again, my mistake, I didn't record it. I mean, it recorded as part of the live stream, but I didn't make a separate recording. So basically, we're skipping an episode here worth of content. But it's on the live stream, which is for patrons only right now. The live stream version of it is only for patrons only. Just a few people there. You can be a patron for $1 a month. Again, hey, look, I'm not pushing anybody, pressuring anybody to join it, just if you want to, but one of the benefits would be to see some things like that, if it's interesting to you. And of course, that goes to help support me or the channel in development here, as well as modding elements too. And so, yes, if you like, you can do that. But we're going to continue. I've done, just to sort of run down what I've done off camera now, just because I think it is incredibly boring, is, no, some people may enjoy it, but still. But I'll show off one of the big things I set up Flieger Corps bombers, sort of basically bomber command. So we have light and medium bombers. I'm not planning on building any heavy bombers. So it'll be, the mediums are sort of our heavies and the lights are sort of our mediums. Transport command. That will be obviously for our transports. Fighter command, basically Flieger Corps fighters, is some other stuff attached here, but you can see all of our fighters there. And Flieger Corps CAS, close air support, has these. This is not historical. Sorry, Klaus. I like you. Love that you research all the stuff. But this is just ease of use for me as a human without a bunch of staff officers figuring out and organizing everything up. And out here, which is sort of separate, but we have, I don't have a commander for it, Flieger Corps Sea. So as in ocean, as in, ocean is different term, but yeah. Okay, we'll put Kohler in charge of that. Okay, so he is out here going to command our anti-shipping aircraft, just as a ease of use, life improvement type situation. So we're going to do that. But now, really, since the last reorganization special, haven't done much more, but we're getting a few of our commands staff into places. Transport. And if you want to see a more detailed game than Hearts of Iron 3, you might want to watch my I guess here, War in the East 2 series. Now this is the 3rd Army Corps. I think we're going to attach you to the 3rd Army Corps. We're going to attach you to the 3rd Army Corps. And you. And you. Oh, we need a commander here. Let's find a sort of reasonably standard German commander, which I take to be. Okay, now him. Skill level 3. Oh, we're already out of. You have fun. Brow Hitch. He needs a promotion. Let's find somebody else to command this group. Butcher, there we go. Yeah. He's already full. Looks like we even need more command staff out here. Now, my friend, Arno wants me to start closer to the historical date sometime in September. And then I'm thinking about that. What he thinks is normally I like to wait until 1940, early spring 1940, and mostly that is, the reason is to get a lot of like this stuff sort of done. We can see we're getting some stuff in August, but get some of the panzers I'm building done, and get things done and deployed. Okay, we have we have a bunch more stuff to deploy here. I guess you're going to. Okay, motor torpedo boat, yes. Motor torpedo boat, yes. We're just sticking you all in one group. Okay, Not that group, maybe. Well, let's start another. Transport. Okay, 1, 3, 2. Do we have 1, 3, 2? And the fighters. Well, 132, 130, 131, yes. 1, 3, 4, Condor Legion. Okay, well, I guess we're going to start another gig. Yeah, made a reasonably good choice there. And we're going to put them to fighter command, basically. There we go. Okay. I really don't think we need any more divisions to defeat Poland than what we sort of already have here in the east. So we might as well start putting some divisions in the west. Okay. This unit, I think, disappears to become an air transportable division. And I don't know how soon. Okay, no, not von Manstein. Again, a sort of standard German general. No, not Rommel. I don't know. Oh God, it would be so easy for someone. I could program it on, if then statements type of thing. If this, then that. And I know it's like trying to grab, I guess, the best general somehow and put it. Well, might as well use it, but yeah, no. Okay. I'm going to move your whole core down this way. I'll keep doing this until I get Manstein into a better. Is that? And you can handle one more division, so we'll put to a better place. I know he wasn't too high ranking at this time. There we go. Okay, so we have that core. This core is coming down here. Well, we will need a leader for that. This is a Sturm Pioneer. We'll see. Oh, well, what we can do. Good Panzer commanders there. Gotta do some more higher level organization. Palace. Push him up to a corps command right now. Yes, sort of super. Because do we demote back? Dahlman with his fortress attack. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Okay. Now. Oh, he's attached way up there. Well, okay, now detach him. Detach and attach him up there. This way he can go to here. The 6 core. VI. Okay, so that gets 4 divisions. Okay, well. Yeah, not Rommel. Oh, give him him, even though he is. There we go. So somewhat organized out here. And so I normally think, hey, let's get the army built out properly, then go to war and just hit it hard. Okay, so that one artillery unit command and control. And we have a whole bunch more divisions. Now we are getting a bunch of infantry divisions, which is what I hope to have prior to going to war. Amphibious unit training, yeah. That's the Marines and whatnot. Air superiority tactics, that could be useful. Okay. Now, my friend Arno's point, and so I normally want to get these things well built out and then just crush Poland and shift east and crush in the west and push to the north. What I'm a little worried about is get things built out properly. Don't need to do it. Now, his sort of suggestion here is, well, hey, once you go to war, you can come over here and change some of these laws like this to, heavy industry emphasis. And since it'll be wartime, it will actually need less consumer goods, but 10% more ICs. We can go to war economy. And early on I sort of did the how many more ICs I got versus how many more I had to pay into consumer goods. Now, I'm not absolutely sure with all of the current modifiers it'd be as bad now, but it very well might be. But at wartime, you actually need even less. So yeah, you get a whole lot more ICs if you go to war now or very soon. Now, I'm a little worried about this. If I were to jump up a huge amount of ICs, okay, I'll probably have enough coal. I ain't gonna have enough rare materials. And, well, oil, yeah, but only so much of it, depending on because I'm anticipating a possible September war start. I have sent some submarines out here. Now they're all out here as on passive, so once they get too much damage, they're supposed to turn around and come home if you use them aggressively, they'll normally just get destroyed or very quickly taken out. Oh, they're a lot faster. Do also send out not Q ships, because those are meant to take out submarines, but covert raiders, I guess, what you would want to call them, way out here where they can. Seems like they've shortened the range of submarines, but maybe I'm just more used to them coming, waiting until I get out here. I don't know. So, and the problem is, of course, when I go to war, so I'm still not sure. I was going to do it, but obviously once I go to war, I lose all of this, so I lose these rare materials from Britain. Soviet Union, that'd all be fine, and there's a lot of stuff. Now the USA, presumably I could still trade with them, but I don't know what I would be losing in, convoys being stopped. And trade with places like Iran and Brazil would be, and Ecuador would be, well, at least the imports. The exports I don't think are affected. So, the exports would still be good. So I would need to move over more and more of at least the imports from the US to the Soviets. And I might be able to do that, but that's the downside of all of this, and that's partially why I've really went heavy into doing more steel, just because of not just that we're 18 down now, but once we get that, and then of course as we bring in more here. Now I do know there will be more steel captures. Don't know how much is here or here or here, but it'd be more and more. The ones that are within our zone. That may be maybe in ours. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just up here as ours. I think so. This in our zone. I think this was ours, or maybe the Soviet. I don't know. And then, of course, eventually being able to capture more stuff. So, yeah, we'd be able to capture more. Resources too, steel and others, of course. Okay, well, let's build 3 long-range submarines, just because, like I say, we're seeing shorter ranges. Normally, and I don't know if, upgrading and things in here that might be increasing their range, like support submarines, 600 kilometers, fire control, which we should be doing, and sonar detection. These should all be researching now. Well, we'll get to soon though, as research frees up. But that there, 600 kilometers, that's good. Normally it's been the case that from here, from Western France, I'm able to raid here without needing long-range submarines. So I don't know if they've shortened them up or if it's just my impression of them. And let's also throw along 3 regular range submarines. There we go. Now, where's Hadler? He should be commanding a division. Okay, I know we're bringing over a few other forces. Let's drop some divisions here just to sort of dissuade them from being overly aggressive. Okay, defensive general. Okay, old school general. All right, he's only rank 2, but he's offensive and a fortress. Oh, no, we may build a. You know, this is actually a reasonably good division with the mixed support. I wonder if I should build a or rework a. Maybe even him. I don't know. No, where did he go? Where did he go? Which one was it? No, it's the one that's. Boy. I was wondering if I was too. No, it isn't. Okay, both attack and fortress buster. So it would be good offensive there. Oh no, he was at rank 2. That's right. So there is him. Is that who was Nibhuba? He's good, I guess, for getting across rivers and fortress busting. Engineer, river, speed, attack, speed, board attack. Batter. Batter should get a core command, I think. There it is, Von Prager. I don't know, because if we were... No, you stay here. We're moving him down. Maybe we'll switch out. Maybe move him over somewhere here. I don't know. I'm moving this. No, where is it? This. Now with this there. Okay. You know, I think I'm going to move you up over here. Let me create a second one with one of the river crossers, specifically for hitting some of these forts and hitting them hard. That'd be cool. Okay. Let's drop you here. Yeah. Von Manstein. Okay, let's look for what's his name? Don't know, but just look for a river crosser and fortress buster. There we are. Eckstein. Okay, so Eckstein. Engineers versus support. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Okay, now. Brom Amoli. No, you're not going to stay there. He's an old Austrian general. Dies, I don't know, 42, 43, just basically old age. Austrian only shows up, he showed up early here in this thing, but should only be showing up after Austria is part of the Reich. Okay, Keitel, logistics wizard. Well, Keitel's the historical guy, but I think we're going to promote. Well, it's sort of on brow hitches too, in a way, but the depends on how you're trying to define some of this stuff, and I don't remember exactly who. But what you can be doing earlier than now is looking for guys that use supply consumption less. Now, units do sit here and use supply, so less supply consumption is nice from the start of it, but they really use supply consumption once you're active, you know, fighting in wars and whatnot. Okay. Vice, no-ish now, maybe. Welch. Von Welch, I don't know. Von Mackinson. He isn't the colorful Von Mackinson, the one with the, you know, the old dude with the World War, with of World War One fame war, and the Death Heads, cavalry, whatnot. Okay, there. That's who I think I want. Yes. We have him in charge of Army Group Sudan? No. Maybe Modal. It's also early for him. But what I want to do here is, part of it is just finding these personnel. Okay, von Rundstedt will command here in the east for the moment. Yodel is commanding out here. He has a basic logistics wizard. OKW, well, this is a mess, obviously. German command was a mess. I sort of had to. Okay. Don't know how many times you want to hear me say this because I've done this. This is really weird. They don't have a higher command. They don't than this command level. Should this one have a field command headquarters? Oberkommando der Welt. Well, this is des Western. But this is OKW. I'm not sure. I take OKW to mean Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, meaning it's over everything else. Over the Oberkommando der Kriegsmarine, OKM for Marine. Over OKL, Oberkommando der Luftwaffe, and Oberkommando des Heers. That's what I take it. But, and this was sort of Hitler's, after a while, here, Hitler really starts, well, this is sort of Hitler's command in a way, because Hitler is supreme commander. Everyone's, does his oath to Hitler, and there's the famous, the oath after Hindenburg dies that combine the sort of office of the president and office of the chancellor. Chancellor is sort of like prime minister. Don't really know the distinction, if there is a distinction with that, or a difference without, or a distinction without a difference. I don't know. Whatever. They're basically the same thing. Chancellor, meaning sort of head of the parliamentary party, if you will, where the president, and Hitler had lost to Hindenburg. The president is like voted on directly by the people. The chancellor is normally picked from the party that, or should be picked. Von Papen was a minority chancellor before Hitler. Time before, and I think there was somebody else who was immediately after. I think it goes Von Papen, somebody else, Hitler, and Von Papen is back as vice chancellor, which there wasn't always a vice chancellor. It isn't like a vice president in the U.S. that there's always one. So sometimes it's a minority, but he is sort of the leader faction. From the members of the parliament, basically the Reichstag, is the chancellor. And the president is an office that's voted on, like there's still a president in Germany today, but I don't think anybody pays attention to her. So Hitler combines the office of, and the army is responsible to the president, not to the chancellor. So when Hindenburg was in office, the whole army structure has basically, Hitler's entirely out of the army command structure. Obviously, he's commanding his party army, the SA and the SS and whatever, but he's not in charge of the army. The army is under both the Kaiserreich and under the Weimar type government. It's under the president, but it's not under sort of the civil government. It's really sort of a parallel state type system. Okay. So, and I hope I'm getting all this political science right. I'm sure I'm wrong in some details. So if you really want the details, in deeper details, you can look them up. But so Hitler combines the office of the chancellor, which he currently holds legally, with that of the president, and gets the Reichstag to vote it in. I don't know how legal it is, but it's definitely voted in and whatnot. So those two offices are combined basically as him as the Fuhrer, and then all of the armed forces swears allegiance to him. Okay, so he's in charge of the army. Then eventually there's established, because I say eventually because it's not always, because the changeover from the Weimar government to the National Socialist government happens in stages. Eventually they set up this Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. And so it goes Hitler, and then basically the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. I say basically because you do have Deputy Führer Hess. But Hess is taken out of the picture in the military sense, and to some sense out of the picture, political in some sense. In 1940, they hold the ceremony granting all the, it's like 8 or 12 marshal's batons to the army and then some to the Luftwaffe and Air Force. Because Goering had been a field marshal of the Luftwaffe, in charge of the Luftwaffe. He's a field marshal in charge of the Luftwaffe. In 1940, he is made Reich Marshal. Reich Marshal. Instead of field marshal. He's now the national marshal. And that is a position now created specifically for him, that he's immediately under Hitler and above the OKW. So it goes Hitler, Goering, OKW. Okay? Hitler, Goering, OKW. Then it goes below that. Below OKW is the OKH, OKM, OKL. As the war goes on, and sort of starting fairly early on, Hitler's in the OKW headquarters out here in the West. The OKW headquarters, partially happening because of wanting to coordinate primarily the Army and the Luftwaffe together in operations, is taking over operational commands. It wasn't originally intended or designed to. It's sort of like saying, well, the Pentagon is going to run this thing while you have, let's say the Pentagon is going to run the war in the Pacific, while the Army is going to run the war, or run each of the wars in, run the war in Europe or something like that. So instead of like, these guys are actually doing sort of operational planning here at the OKW, not at the OKH. Except, and this goes more and more, except the OKH is running the war in the East. They basically run the war in the East, including sort of the Luftwaffe in coordination. Still Goering is still. So they're running the war in the East, and the OKW is now sort of below the OKH running the war in the West and the South, the Mediterranean. The reason I say below is because your chain of command goes Hitler, Goering, OKW, OKH for like who's going to get promoted, what, all the sort of administration, army, military, army administration elements. But operationally below that is these guys. So these guys are both functionally, not as in pure pyramidal hierarchy, but functionally they're above and below OKH. So it's really sort of weird. The Kriegsmarine is sort of running its own thing, and as the war goes later and later, there's less and less needs to coordinate anything with the Kriegsmarine or OKM, because they're just doing a strategic warfare submarine war out in the Atlantic and that kind of thing, and any sort of local little operation, patrolling along the coast or whatever is locally handled. So they're sort of doing their own war. So I am sure that Mr. Very Popular Hess, and he was very popular. He was the guy who, for at least all the major speeches for Hitler, he was the warm-up act. He'd come out and give a speech. I really don't know a lot about, like what he was saying or his tone or tenor, and it may have changed all the time, but he was sort of the sort of warm-up act for then Hitler coming on to headline. And he was really popular. People liked him because at least to the outside world of German political things, he was non-controversial. He was just Deputy Führer Hess. Now, inside, he was, to some degree, running the party, hierarchical apparatus and doing a bunch of that stuff. He had a lot of power there, but that was sort of within the party hierarchy. So the guys on the ground, the local, hey, I'm a member of the Nazi Party, or hey, I'm the SA or whatever, they weren't feeling it. It's just sort of the hierarchy, the Gauleiters and whatnot. So he was sort of running a lot of that. But to the rest of the world, he was just Mr. Popular, Mr. Personality, and Deputy Führer. So one of the, because how many assassination attempts? 10, 12? I mean, actual sort of people either planting a bomb or people with guns traveling on trains that get stopped. People that are really, really sort of looking to kill Hitler. There's a bunch, as time goes on. He's going to, because he's Mr. Popular, be taking over if Hitler, bites it. So now, of course, he could die too in the explosion or whatever, because he may be standing next to Hitler if it goes off. But if he survives the attempt, he is number 2 in the hierarchy. I could get deep into Hess, but we're not going too deep into Hess. Just remember, Hess is in Landsberg prison at the same time Hitler is. I think he even has his, you could check me on this, he may even have could get out earlier, but stays in prison to continue to work with Hitler, because it's actually rather cushy, in writing Mein Kampf. He is the one who actually sort of takes down the dictation of Hitler's Mein Kampf. So he is, the physical sort of writer of from Hitler's words of it, and Hitler's reading it over and whatnot. But so he's, prison buddies with Hitler. So he's a good buddies with Hitler. He has a lot of influence. 1940, there's a war. Hitler knows in 1940, and they defeat France. Still got that pesky English problem out there. Hitler and the upper people, including Hess, know that it's only a matter of time before we're going to go to war with the Soviet Union. Hess knows this. Hess is he's still Deputy Fuhrer in a political sense, but what has Germany become? A military state. Hitler is, what he says, some words to the effect, and sorry, I'm saying them in English, so, I don't know what the direct translation, but, I've put on this gray coat or whatever for the duration of the war. So basically, at some point after the war starts, not necessarily the first day, but fairly early into the war, I think and I don't know exactly when, before the invasion of France starts, he switches over to the army gray coat. He no longer wears brown coats, brown stuff. So you can sort of, at least photographically, more or less look at a picture of Hitler. And this is because of my study, you can just almost look at a picture of Hitler and determine, when it was taken, not like to the date, but sort of to the year and what's going on, sort of progressive of things, partially as he's rapidly aging as the war is going bad. But so if you see him wearing, and you can tell, because obviously there's a lot of time black and white, but the coat styles change a bit. If you can see, it's in the color and it's gray. Now, I've seen some paintings that originally it was brown. They've painted, not like repainted the painting, but using it as a painting model, but just painted, make a new painting, but copying from the, changing it. Otherwise, same painting, basically changing it from brown to gray coats. He puts on the gray coat. It's now become a military state. Winning the war is the path to success within the German state right now. And Goering is the chosen one at the moment. And Hess is sort of like, I'm Deputy Führer. Am I Deputy Party Führer? Or am I Deputy National Führer? Or what the hell? Oh, and I have whatever, the father and son, Price, whatever, I forget. Sorry, people. Like I can go deep into Hess. The astrologers and whatnot. That pushing. It's also partially this. So Hess, I don't think Hess is stupid. By the time he's near his death, I think he's nuts. He's been in prison most of his life, or a good chunk of his life. But early on at this time, not any more nuts than Hitler and Goering and Hitler, Goering, Goebbels, and the people into weird esoteric stuff. Hess is always into weird esoteric stuff. Remember, Hess is born here in Alexandria, Egypt. Don't know how old he is until he finally gets home. It may be just a few years, but he's born down there. His parents are, a bit more international, but German. And so, but Hess isn't stupid, and he does a stupid thing, and he's influenced by various esoteric things as well. But he's lost his reason for being for a while, because he now no longer has a significant role within Nazi Germany. And if you don't have a role within Nazi Germany, you're losing your power base. And so Hess knows that it's only a matter of time before the real show starts, the war in the East. And Hess knows, now again, he is mistaken on his ability, mistaken on all elements of it, I would say, just about his ability, the English willingness, the people who he's trying to go talk to in Scotland to try to get peace with England. But he knows that if he could solve the problem of England, he would now be number one again with Hitler. Who's this Goering guy? He, he failed to keep the, people leaving from Dunkirk. He's just the Luftwaffe guy. Here's Hess, who, and this is just surface Hess, we're going on it right at the moment. Hess could if he solves that, Hess is, the international superstar, the peacemaker with England, ending the war in the West so that we can concentrate on the real war in the East. Hess is great. Hess is number one after Hitler, so he's number two, and he is in number two Brown stuff, yes. And so that is a large part of the reason why Hess does his flight up to Scotland to who he thinks is a Nazi sympathizer. What is it? The Duke of Hamilton. Duke of Hamilton, we believe, or whatever, there's records that he was part of the Right Circle or Right Club, or however, if that's not both terms being used in London. And that is sort of a club of maybe somewhat esoteric, because a lot of esotericism is built into this. I would say definitely anti-Semitic. Basically right-wing, not necessarily fascist or necessarily National Socialist. I mean, because it's a collection of people. They don't necessarily have one dogma on things, but it's sort of a club, a group, an organization, a circle, which is an older sort of term for some of these stuff. I could go into that. So it at least goes to the 18th, maybe 17th century or older in Britain, but a circle. But that he's belonged to. And the Nazis know of this organization, and they share some sympathies with the Nazis, as you can tell. Anti-Semitic, right-wing, not, when I say not necessarily fascist or National Socialist, is they're not necessarily socialistic, but they're right-wing and maybe pro a bit more dictatorship. But they're not necessarily, when I say this, because they're not necessarily BFU and Mosley fans. Now, some of them probably are, but they're not necessarily that. Because they're not necessarily that sort of left-wing, right-wing, socialistic, populist type elements. And so this group does exist. Now, I would say a lot of the stuff is with these people are afraid of revolution, okay? And so they're afraid of whether it's a Bolshevik revolution or a syndicalist revolution or an anarchist revolution or even just a good old democratic revolution in Britain, which would get rid of the monarchy, get rid of the House of Lords, would have purely elected prime minister, abolish, be sort of leveling, even if it isn't communistical or socialistical, but leveling in that you get rid of a lot of the traditional large landholder ownership. Because there is, to this day, there's huge multi-block areas of what maybe not necessarily, maybe or maybe not, I don't know, because I don't quite know the geography, within quote-unquote the city of London, because there's also Westminster and areas that we all outside of London think of it as London, but that are owned by some of these people that have owned these 6 or 8 blocks or whatever, sections for hundreds of years, and they collect rent on these very old buildings, and some are homes within the area and shops and high-end stuff, and some of this stuff, they're, shall we say, fabulously wealthy people. And they're worried that that kind of stuff will be broken up, particularly because some of the ownership sort of is tied into titles of nobility. And so it's not hey, yeah, I just bought this over here because I had a lot of money. No, it's because I'm descended from somebody and we've owned it for, 300, 400 years. And so they're worried about, a sort of leveling democratic revolution, even in Britain, in more, not just that, hey, we get to vote for who the prime minister is, but you know what I mean. And so this group of people is sort of, at least that's my interpretation, and I don't know, it's sort of mysterious because we're not even sure we know exactly all who was in it. But the Duke of Hamilton, if I'm getting all this right, because I'm just going off memory right now, folks, is a member of this organization, and the Nazis know of this organization, and it's a club for elites. It isn't a mass group like the BFU. They don't try to get lots of members. They're not out there. It's just an organization to some degree of various elites in Britain. Not all necessarily wealthy people, but people with connections. Could be an author, or a member of parliament, or whatever. You don't have to be reasonably well off, but you're not necessarily one of these upper elite, very wealthy persons. Now, what he doesn't necessarily understand is that the overwhelming majority of these Right Club members are hugely patriotic to Britain. Okay, there is no sort of like, well, we're weird right-wing esoterics, so we're more aligned to your weird esoteric National Socialism than we are to, common Britons. Like you find in an example in France. What happens when Germany invades? Who is absolutely silent and absolutely compliant to the German takeover in France in 1940? Who is pushing defeatist propaganda within the French political, social, and military structure in France in 1940? Who? Say it. Who? The communists. Because they got their orders from Stalinist, because Stalin has obliterated all opponents within communist parties in basically every country except for China of any note. He has taken over, his agents has taken over the communist parties, and so they comply because Stalin is now aligned with Nazis. So they are still sort of banned, but they're still, even once they're over-occupied, they're compliant. They don't kick or shout or do any resistance type stuff. Nothing. The early resistance, and there's some stuff years ago I read about some of the early days of the resistance, in which you find like one of the pictures was the cross of Lorraine on the back of a jockey at a racetrack meeting in the very public, because although the resistance members knew that the cross of Lorraine was being sort of a symbol of the resistance of France, the Germans quite not yet had figured it out, so certain people like this jockey could wear it openly at the time. It was the sort of center and right in France that was starting to form resistance elements, sort of de Gaulle, if you will, but not just de Gaulle. The communists were staying out of it because they were under orders from the Soviet Union. Invasion of the Soviet Union starts. They start doing resistance activities because now they've got their marching orders from their communist hierarchy opposed to the evil Nazis. They were evil all along. We were just fooling them. Okay. Hess thinks, I don't know how this really got onto Hess other than the structure of, Hess thinks that these sort of elitist Britons will have more in common with the elitist German esoteric type, anti-Semitic type people, and want to form, a anti-Bolshevik alliance or whatever between these countries and try to topple that obstinate Churchill. Not in Hess's mind, I'm sure, thinking that it's going to mean German occupation or anything like that. Just let's have a peace treaty, guys. Let's end this war. We're both on the same side. The real enemy are these guys and the Jews. We know the Jews are the enemy. that's who he thinks he's talking to. Well, these people are maybe anti-Semitic, but they're more patriotic to Britain than they are anti-Semitic, shall we say. And so I'm not trying to whitewash this club or make this club out to be anything good. Again, like I say, it's shrouded in mystery because I don't think they had like a set letter of list of beliefs. I think it was partially it was somewhat informal in that sense. I think because there is a book that has names in it. I don't know if that book is real. I believe it is. I don't know how accurate that book is. I don't know if pages got torn out or whatever. And of course, people, once the war starts, don't want to be associated with it. So it's not really forming much of a fifth column. I think there might be a few individuals that are members and associated with it are sort of like either actually would be part of a fifth column or are thought that they might be, that get locked up by Britain. They do lock up people like Mosley. He might or might not. I don't remember if his name was in that book, but it is the right circle or the right club isn't trying to be a mass organization. So Hess thinks he can, and I think the reason he thinks he can pull it off is because, was it Price Haushofer? I think that maybe, and his son, or maybe that's the son's name of the father, whatever, get influenced by him that makes him convinced that he could pull this off, that somehow some esoteric reason, whether it's the stars and a lot of people will say astrology, and well, they were into astrology, but there's also a lot of other weird esoteric stuff, and I'm still trying to decipher all of it. Again, there's all kinds of reasons for them obscuring what they believed, especially the war and after the war. So it's hard to get fact from fiction on this, in my opinion. So yeah, I could point to some books, but that help. And so Hess goes out to try to save his position, rolls the dice, and really comes up with a bad dice roll, as it were. And so yeah, back to the structure. So he's sort of taken out of the structure of the party politics, and it will everything be, or out of the structure of running of Germany, and so that's why he goes to England, or to Scotland, but yeah, because that's where he thought the Duke of Hamilton would be. He wasn't at the time, So a nut job move, but I don't think he was. He was. I'm going to use the right words. He understood reality, I think. Meaning it wasn't Gaga fantasy land. But hell, maybe they all were. Maybe Hitler and Goering and or just Gaga fantasy land. Oh man, I mean look at what Himmler believes, and oh god, these guys are nuts. I keep saying irrational, but they're freaking nuts. Oh god, yeah. Mussolini is mostly rational. He's religious, I think, to a point. I think he's generally, vaguely, or whatever, Christian, Catholic. Not that he's overly, observant, but I think he believes in a god of some sort. I think maybe somebody knows Mussolini more, and maybe he was an atheist. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big, but he wasn't one of these weird esoteric type people. You know who would have hated Hitler if he really understood all of this stuff? Franco. Franco, well, I don't think Jews really came into his sort of purview so much because Spain had expelled them all. you know, long ago, the whole Jesuits and the no one. Oh boy, I always blank on things. No one expects the Inquisition. Joke from Monty Python. The whole Inquisition that was initially started over trying to weed out secret Muslims, but when out of Spain, and then it shifts over to Jews mainly, and other heretical Christians. But yeah, the Inquisition. So they've already expelled most of their Jews long ago. So it's not really Jews. He was very anti Masons, Masonic elements. Masons were his sort of evil bugaboos. Well, the Nazis weren't Masons, but they have some of the theosophical elements in their stuff. I think he'd be, and he was generally rather religious Christianity elements. So if he really realized how nut job religious type beliefs that's at the core of, maybe he did, and maybe that's why he keeps out of the war, maybe, and then he really would have hated Hitler. I don't think he liked Hitler. I don't think he liked him at all, but he would, if he knew how esoteric they were, he would have really hated him. Now, of course, the guy who really hates Hitler is Salazar, the nationalist, because it's the nouveau state, the new state is a nationalist party in Portugal, and by the same name, but a different party that's fascist in Brazil. The nouveau state is fascist in Brazil. Two different parties, same name. But he is a nationalist, a pragmatist of the right. So they're absorbing some fascist type elements within there, but it's not a fascist government. He hates Hitler so much, and the Nazis. He hates Hitler so much, and Hitler and the Nazis so much, that he writes a book. Before World War II starts, he writes a book that's against the Nuremberg laws. And he actually writes a book that's an anti-Hitler book. No other head of state that I know of, before World War II for sure, you can go, Eisenhower's The Great Crusade or whatever might be considered an anti-Nazi book. He becomes president, but that's more of his, military crusade. But he writes a political anti-Nazi book by a head of state, and I think that's the only one that's sort of head of state that's writing an anti-Nazi book. And that's how much he hates the Nazis. He doesn't hate Mussolini. Might not like him. I don't know what he thinks of him as a person, but doesn't hate fascist Italy. He's a nationalist. There's phalangist, Miguel. I don't know. The foreign minister of Spain is a phalangist, which is a Spanish version of a fascist. So, it's fascist in Spain in government levels. But, yeah, no. They're nuts. But are they in touch with reality? Well, by the end, Hitler, saw a thing on Twitter that some such date, in like April or whatever, 1945, Hitler finally says the war is lost when Steiner can't come to the relief of Berlin. Is that really that when he finally admits to himself that the war is actually lost? When Steiner can't come to the relief of Berlin, somehow he thinks the Soviets are like the outside of Berlin or something. Oh, this war is still winnable. Steiner can't show up. Uh-oh, we're gonna lose now. I mean, really, people, that's losing touch with reality. Yeah, okay. Well, hope you like this episode in chat. Tell me if you did. Tell me if you didn't. Normally, I'm trying to play this faster, but I just got in a mood. Well, Thanks so much. See you next time for even more Hearts of Iron.